4 Arab states, Egypt included, have sent Qatar a list of demands that, in their view, it must meet if it wants sanctions to be lifted. Now, the list, signed by authorities from Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, includes a range of things. Shutting down the Qatari broadcaster Al-Jazeera is one, the cutting of ties with Iran and the Muslim Brotherhood, the closure of a Turkish military base in the country, and to stop giving citizenship to nationals of the 4 countries. Now, the demands have to be met within 10 days or this offer will be, quote-unquote, void. We don't know exactly what that means. We'll find out in just a moment. Now, Qatar has not yet made an official response to that list of demands. Some Gulf commentators believe these demands may be a starting point for negotiations, but the Saudi kingdom and the UAE governments are not open at this point to any sort of compromise. Right then, let's dig a little deeper into the details of this list of demands. Yasser Kim joins us now live from Cairo with more data on the story. Yasser, this list of 13 demands included an unquantified amount of compensation. So do we know how much money is being asked for, and what exactly is this cash for anyway?
No, Rama, no one knows, except obviously ones who are involved, about the amount so far. Although the 10 points have been leaked, the amount has not been leaked as well to the media. But it seems that this money is compensation for, obviously, Qatar has been funding, as the Arab countries have been saying, has been funding and supporting militant groups, terrorist groups, and these groups have been operating in Egypt, in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain as well. And I think this will be the compensation for the losses of these countries because of the militancy that has been taking place and supported by Qatar. We don't know the details, but it's obviously something to do with terrorism, with violence, inciting violence, and obviously the economic impact of this on these countries. And in a way, this is considered a compensation for the harm that has been done by what they say Qatar's involvement with terrorist groups in these countries.
Indeed, I'm glad you brought up that point. Let's dig deeper into it. Saudi Arabia has funded groups fighting in Syria's civil war. Saudi citizens have joined the fight in Syria, and the country has actually been provided a base for training of rebel groups operating in Syria as well. So isn't it hypocritical of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to then turn around and demand that its smaller neighbor to the east stop doing something that it too is doing?
Well, if you look at Qatar's point of view, that's exactly what they're saying in response. And that's what they're claiming that Saudi Arabia is doing to them, while it's the same, just exactly what you have just said now. But from the other point of view, from Saudi Arabia's point of view, well, they see Qatar has actually strayed away from the initial plan to overthrow Bashar al-Assad and the dictatorship and help rebels to do so by actually supporting the groups, the jihadi groups or extremist groups that are related to or affiliated to Iran and the Shia, which are there not to overcome, not to overtake or overthrow Bashar al-Assad, but also to take over the Gulf, all the Gulf nations, and they want to take over the rich Gulf states. And this is what the Saudis are saying. They're saying that Qatar's main issue is that it stood beside Iran in the war in Syria and in other conflicts in the region, and therefore it is actually against what the Gulf nations' benefits are, and it is supporting and working with a country that has publicly before said that the Gulf nations or the Gulf states are part of Iran, and has continuously threatened to enter these countries by force. So this is where they went against each other, and this is why Saudi Arabia has taken the stance against Qatar.
Indeed. One last question for you. I mean, this list is fairly long, Yasser, but let's assume, for argument's sake, that the Qataris say, you know what, we're not going to meet these demands. Are these 4 countries, including Egypt, willing to try and achieve their objectives by force if necessary?
No one spoke about force, but what we can see is that the next step, if Qatar did not respond positively, is that it could be eliminated from the GCC, the Gulf Countries Council, the Gulf Cooperation Council, and this is an important entity that unites all these 7 rich Arab Gulf states, and it will be sacked from that, so it will be losing more economically. I think what they're playing at is who has more stamina, who will will Qatar be able to sustain such an embargo or such a blockade or boycott on the long term. At this moment, Qatar is able to do so, but on the long term, it will cost a lot of money to import from other countries the products it needs, 90% of its needs, but through a longer route. And this longer route will cost more money. The alternative sources of products will cost a lot of money. The loss in businesses and closure of a lot of businesses in Qatar because of the blockade from the Gulf nations, and obviously their money going out of Qatar will cost a lot of money. So will Qatar be able to sustain this on the long term? I think this is what those 4 Arab countries are playing at. They're hoping that it will have to heat in after a while, maybe not now, but maybe on the mid-term or long-term basis. Force is not on the ground so far.
Indeed. So then we'll see how the long game plays out. Thank you for your insights. That's Yasser Hakim, of course, live in the Egyptian capital of Cairo.